All right, I have my got my book review right here. I'm going to read it to you. In case I don't include the bits from earlier, I'm going to re-explain the thesis. Basically, Thomas Paine's thesis with common sense was to explain to the American people or the colonists, because they weren't maybe quite Americans yet. I don't know. Basically, why it was so important to separate from the monarchy. Thomas Paine's thesis was that the monarchy was almost like a tumor on the 13 colonies because it really held us back. Didn't have any representation. We couldn't set up our own laws. We had to follow the guidelines of a country 2,000-3,000 miles away. It really just wasn't right for us. And that's why we had to separate. And this is jumping the gun a little bit, but I am quite convinced by his argument. I didn't really care that much about monarchies that long ago. But in the last couple of years, as I've gotten a little bit more into politics and just that whole can of worms, monarchy's not very cool because, as Thomas Paine puts, the first person in the first line of succession, they could be this great leader, people person. They could be just amazing guy, like the kind of people we hear stories and legends about. I mean, George Washington, great guy. I mean, maybe great guy for 1700s, but to have a monarchy for his bloodline, to be getting a bunch of little George Washington Juniors, as Thomas Paine put it again, as you go down, you're just going to get these kids that are unfit for ruling, and they're going to be influenced by outside sources, and the country could tear itself apart. They're going to be bratty, snobby kids that have never had to work for anything in their life. So I really am convinced by their argument. And also just hearing about stuff the monarchy has either done or even sometimes the even worse cases not done. It's just, I don't like it. Even in like modern Britain with a parliament with a prime minister that makes the laws of the country, the monarchy still has too much influence. That's another tale for another day. This is the importance of Thomas Paine's common sense. I gotta adjust my eyes because I got the flashlight on the phone and I was staring at it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That comes from Thomas Jefferson in 1776, and I believe the Declaration of Independence, which I don't think I included in my bibliography, but you didn't seem to count off for it. I don't know. To write such a statement, along with what follows, which was the rest of the Declaration of Independence, was an act of treason of the highest order against the royal crown. To sign simply the same document with a name was almost a guarantee of sharing the gallows with pirates, thieves, or worse. Yet, 247 years later, that same piece of paper is kept as a sacred relic of a time when what would eventually become the United States fought back against the biggest bully of the old world, Great Britain. Despite the seemingly insurmountable odds, the most powerful navy and army were forced out of the 13 colonies over a simple lack of representation. Thomas Paine's 1776 debut with Common Sense could be considered in the 16th century. Yeah, I do think you put a comment here, 18th. Yeah, that would have been right, 18th century, to be as radical as any other manifesto of today. However, it reads more like a sermon from an angry preacher. Pastor is what I said, an angry pastor. Common Sense may be one of the most critical documents ever written during the Revolutionary period, possibly even usurping the Declaration of Independence itself for several reasons. Thomas Paine, I've already gone on I've already gone over the thesis statement like 3 times already. Let's skip that. Get out of here, bug. In the modern world, the best way to cut off a rebellion, coup, or revolution is to simply cut off communication. Without it, ideas are simply unable to travel, and people who may carry controversial thoughts are unable to form groups of like minded individuals. What do you. I'm reading your annotation here without what? What do you mean without what? Without it ideas. Oh, I should have put a without it, comma, ideas. It was communication. I should have put a comma, whatever. This is the oral book review. The same principles applied 2.5 centuries ago as well. One of the first important details is that common sense serves as an easily accessible piece of literature and communication that spelled out why the revolution was necessary and reconciliation, as many loyalists or maybe some people on the fence were kind of seeking back then. Being only 34 pages long in the unabridged version meant that it wasn't a hard thing for anybody to read in just an hour or so, as long as they were literate. Additionally, Common Sense was written in a tone that makes it seem like a transcript of an angry preacher trying to put the fear of God into unholy colonists. On pages 13 through 16 of the 1819 publishing of Common Sense, Thomas Paine recounts a tale from Scripture about the Jews wanting to proclaim themselves a king to be ruled by. The king they proclaim declines, but after the insistence of the Jews, quote, Samuel called unto the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. And all the people said unto Samuel, Pray for thy servants unto the Lord thy God, that we die not. For we have, all capitals here, for we have added unto our sins this devil to ask king. Thomas Paine, 1776, page 16. And while Thomas Paine's pamphlet couldn't send rain and thunder down from heavens, it could still strike that same fear of being ruled by an unjust monarchy. And that fear was easily communicable because of the pamphlet. The next important detail Common Sense covered is simply where we've been and where we're going. The pamphlet covers the past, the present, and the future across 4 chapters. First, Thomas Paine discusses the origins of government in chapter 1, and next, chapter 2 is spent discussing the multitude of reasons in which why a monarchy is bad. Like I mentioned earlier, the heirs. One strong point Thomas mentions about a monarchical government directly contradicts the Declaration of Independence, stating, For all men being original equals, no one by birth could have a right to set up his own family in perpetual preference to all others forever. And though himself might deserve some decent degree of honors of his contemporaries, yet his descendants might be too far unworthy to inherit them. Page 17. This is a powerful quote that shows how, while an early king could be a fit ruler for a place such as England, his descendants would be inept in comparison. Third, chapter 3 discusses the present state of American politics. And finally, chapter 4 leaves no room for discussion on whether or not the colonies will win the war, but only a matter of when. It kind of inspiring hope into the colonists. And as mentioned earlier, the separation of common sense into these sections provide the reader or listener, in the case it is being preached, the full story when it comes to a strange thing called democracy. The most important detail Common Sense shares with the reader is its ideas on how a democracy should function and how it would benefit the citizens and not those in charge. Pages 40 through 42 offer Thomas Paine's hints as to what a properly functioning democracy should look like and how it should be run. Common Sense was among the most popular works of literature at the time, therefore it undoubtedly carried at least some influence in how later Congresses would decide to write laws that would affect the future. A case in point may be the mention of the Three-Fifths Clause, although for completely separate reasons. More obvious would be details mentioned like, I read that wrong. A case in point may be the mention of the Three-Fifths Clause, although for completely separate reasons. A case in point may be the mention of the... More obvious would be details mentioned like, let each colony be divided into 6, 8, or 10 convenient districts. Each district to send a proper number of delegates to Congress so that each colony send at least 30. The whole number in Congress be at least 390. Page 40. While the numbers may be slightly off, this is a pretty direct precursor to what would become the House of Representatives, just showing how strong of an effect this pamphlet had later, creating more formal creation of the government. Common sense may have even reached a worldwide audience as well. Quote, when the delegates are met, let a colony be taken from the whole 13 colonies by lot, after which let the whole Congress choose, by ballot, a president from out of the delegates of that province. The system described, that's page 41, the system described here almost seems to be that of the modern parliamentary democracy that many free nations use to this day. These hints have had a great chance at influencing, as mentioned before, the creation of more formal government after the dust of war had settled. Common sense includes many details that make it as important, and if not, then more than the Declaration of Independence. Common sense includes many details that make it as important, and if not then more than the Declaration of Independence. It is comprised of details that were so influential upon colonial life that it helped to convince the masses that this was a war worth fighting for, to free the future country from the tyranny of the crown. Many structures of government today seem intriguingly similar to those laid out in his pamphlet, which may almost seem as if the Constitution and other important documents could have simply been plagiarized. I did a really good line at the end there. Yeah, I didn't include that Thomas Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence for the big biography, but you never mentioned that in the annotation, so I don't know if you noticed that and counted off and just didn't say anything, but I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching this. It is currently 11:15. I have 45 minutes to edit this, get the parts together. This section is not too bad, and then I got to upload it, and I hope that it uploads in time. Thank you for watching, and hey, this is going to be on my YouTube channel, you know. If you want to see any of my other videos, take a look around, especially go to my playlists, the Nerf War series, especially the Battle for Shenanigan Shed. Those things are good, alright? Just saying, I mean, you're a veteran, right? I would assume you like guns and stuff. Well, how about Nerf guns and us firing at each other with Nerf guns in a tank made out of plywood and a golf cart? No, not a golf cart. The golf cart didn't come until later. The four-wheeler. The golf cart broke down before I could use it. So, anyway, bye!